Hello, hello. I have a little friend here with me today. If somebody could give me a thumbs up that you can hear me, that the sound is coming through okay, that would be awesome. People are voting in the poll already. Hello, Line. Hello, Catherine. Thanks for being here. So, what makes saying no or speaking up for yourself hardest for you? 67% have said fear being seen as mean or pushy, afraid to hurt or upset someone. So that is what we are talking about today. Last week in the live, I touched a little bit on, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, about on boundaries, and people said, "Yes, please, let's talk about that." Hey, Emily, welcome here. So that is what we are talking about today. How to know what your boundaries actually are and why for people who have always put other people first in their lives or, are in the habit of doing that, attending to what they need, what makes them happy, the other person, and not attending to themselves, how that makes setting boundaries really hard. Hey, in the Rockies, welcome. It's good to see you here. I appreciate you being here. Now we have 60% afraid to hurt or upset someone, and then 40% fear being seen as mean or pushy. So that was my thing, that I recognized, and I probably became most aware of it about 9 years ago when I started going to Codependence Anonymous. There was a woman in the group that I went to who was very outspoken. I can see it now that she was not mean, she was not aggressive or bitchy, she just could speak her mind. She could speak what was true for her, and she could set the limits on what was okay with her and what wasn't okay with her. You see the little tail back here? I have a friend, I'm dog sitting, and, her name is Love, Luv, and she decided to come up to my office and visit, probably because she hears me talking and thinks that there's somebody here to visit with. So I thought this woman, when I first got to know her, to when I first met her, I thought she was very aggressive. And I didn't see it as that she just knew who she was and that she knew what she wanted and she was going to speak up and not let other people cross, her boundaries and push her into something that she didn't want to do. And it was a great learning experience for me. But I believed up until that point and until I figured this out and really became aware of it, that women who spoke up were mean and aggressive, and I thought they were, bitchy, and it didn't feel good for me to be around them because I felt intimidated, I guess. And the double whammy with that is that I didn't want to be that woman, and I also didn't know what I needed or wanted or preferred or desired. And so those 2 things combined didn't allow me, or it made it almost impossible for me to be able to set boundaries. And this, for me, was a learned behavior. In order to, when I was young, to stay connected, to feel like I was approved of, to feel like I wouldn't be rejected, that I was liked, right? I learned to not speak up. And the people that did speak up, I learned that they were, again, pushy, aggressive, especially a female, right? And instead of me asking, what do I want? What do I need here? I was constantly asking, again, until 8 or 9 years ago, what do they want? What makes them happy? What is going to it I probably didn't ask that because I wasn't conscious of me doing this to not be rejected, right? But I would think, how can I make them happy? What's going to keep them happy and, um, you know, connected with me? So now we have more votes. Afraid to hurt or upset someone still is 50% or as the leader. Fear of being seen as mean or pushy is 33% and never saw it modeled growing up, 17%. Right. And that is one thing I realized, again, probably in the last 15 years, is that I didn't have boundaries growing up. Boundaries were not set on me. They were not they were not taught to me. And one thing I realized as an adult, I thought initially, well, that's a good thing because I'm so good. Boundaries don't need to be set on me, right? I never had a curfew, but I never, caroused and I mean, I did some things that teenagers will do, but I never pushed the limit. I never I don't remember ever as a teenager, late teens, I never remember getting in trouble for anything. Um, I would come home at a decent time, especially if it was a school night, and I would study and there was never any limits. But what I realized not too many years ago as an adult, like I said, maybe 15 years ago, when I started looking at why weren't boundaries set on me and how did I feel because they weren't set on me? And I realized that I because I didn't have boundaries, I didn't feel loved. It was almost like, "Oh, she'll be fine," right? And so there was this like really deep core belief around, for me, boundaries and feeling loved and connected. And so what happens when we don't know what our boundaries are? And this means if we don't know what our boundaries are, we probably don't know what we need, what we want, what we prefer. So the real problem ends up being that we don't know what we're saying yes or no to, right? We say yes in order to keep people happy, to not have them be upset with us, but we have no idea what it's doing to, or maybe we don't have a strong sense of what it's doing to our energy, our time, our space, our emotion, our emotional needs, right? So we can't speak up about something. This is the vicious cycle. We can't speak up about something in an assertive way if we haven't even identified what we need yet. And that's what we're talking about today. Emily said, "It depends on the person who I'm setting a boundary with that I'm afraid to hurt someone or upset them." So yeah, we're going to talk about that because it has nothing to do with them um for a boundary. So what is a boundary? A boundary is something, it's a limit that protects something versus it isn't punishment or a wall or a rule for controlling someone. It's not an ultimatum. It's not, you need to do this so that I can feel this, right? A boundary is a limit that protects something for us. It's knowing what is and isn't okay with you. And again, if we've always put other people first and haven't examined our own wants and needs or put them always on the back burner because everybody else's needs are more important, then we don't know what is or isn't okay with us. And for many years, I didn't think it was right for me to say or even really think about what I needed or wanted. But no one else is gonna I figured that out, right? No one else is gonna do that for me. So, boundaries are actually downstream of something. They're not the starting point. So, the boundary is the output. The need, the want, the preference, the desire is the input. That has to come first in order for me to know what boundary I need to set. So you can't skip the output when you haven't done done the reps of figuring out what your needs and your desires are. Catherine, I was the same, Heidi. I didn't think my needs mattered. Right. Yeah, because, for me, I was always putting other people first. Other people's needs were more important than mine, period. It didn't matter who it was. It could have been a stranger, right? Someone I barely knew. It didn't matter. Their needs, other people's needs were always more important than mine. So the missing piece to being able to set boundaries is the wants, the needs, the preferences, the desires. Can you easily list these for you? Do you know what these are for you? They would be things such as physical, like sleep, rest, touch, right? The physical body. Emotional, feeling safe and respected and heard and seen. Emily said, "Yep, I would put others first and my needs didn't matter." Exactly. So emotional, feeling safe and respected and heard, right? I think a lot of people pleasers fall into all of these, but this is a big one, I think, the emotional, feeling safe and respected and heard. Saying I'm struggling, right? Versus pretending that I'm fine, asking for help. Another one would be time, energy. So we have physical, emotional, time slash energy. And that would be like not being on all the time, not performing, having unstructured time, not being so regimented, not having to always be doing something, right? Even things like at numbing and um, like just checking out on social media, right? How are you with your boundaries around your own time? Hey, Amy, thanks for being here. Amy said, yes, others were more important. I was a single mom of 3. Now at 69 and disabled, it's hard for me to ask when I need help. Well, perfect. You are here at a perfect time. I would ask you, I'm assuming you voted in the poll. What makes it hard, Amy? Typo, 59. I was thinking 69 seemed a little old. Um, yeah, I was like, I didn't think she was 69, but yeah, welcome, welcome. And I don't remember, where are you located, Amy? I know where everyone else is. But I'm more interested in what makes it hard for you to ask when you need help? Is it still you're in Pennsylvania, cool. Is it still, do you still have that belief that other people are more important? Is that what causes you to not be able to, ask when you need help? So, that's the next one I'm getting to is so the missing pieces, right? Physical, emotional, we need to be able to state our needs, even if just to ourself in these areas in order to be able to set boundaries. So physical, emotional, time slash energy, mental, right? Where are you with your mental load? Decision fatigue. Maybe that would be, and this one's for you, Amy, like, I need help with XYZ, right? It says nothing about you to ask for help, but that's a boundary that you need for yourself in order to manage your mental, emotional, physical load. And then the other area that I wrote down was material and financial, right? Money, possessions, space. Are people coming into your physical space, um, and stealing your energy that way? So, how do we figure out? First, we have to figure out, right, what our needs and wants and preferences and desires are. What works for me and what doesn't work for me. And then how do we figure out where maybe our boundaries suck? Amy said, "Sometimes I think their needs are more important. Sometimes I need help and it's hard for me, like the new ramp and walk-in shower. This was hard to ask for even though I needed it. I finally asked and both were installed this month." That's amazing. Again, what were the thoughts when you knew these physical things were needed for you, right? What were the thoughts that went through your head, or what did you hear you say to yourself or about someone who needed, you know, a ramp and walk-in shower? Like, looking at what you heard, the story that you were telling yourself about that is more important than, um it's the most important thing, because we go back to that story and we think that story is true, and so then we live by that story and we don't take the action because we think that story is true. Catherine said, "That's so wonderful. I'm so happy you got what you needed by speaking up." Right, great job. Yes. So 56% of people are saying they're afraid to hurt or upset someone. So is that you, Amy? Are you afraid that that would hurt them or upset them if you ask for help? Um, I'm curious because it's different for all of us, right? My boundaries don't need to be the same as yours or vice versa. I could have a boundary around something that is perfectly fine with you. I'm kind of discovering that I'm a little bit of an introvert. I used to think introvert meant shy, right? And um like meek, but now I'm understanding that introvert is more about how we recharge. I need a lot of me time. I need a lot of downtime, a lot of alone time. And that's how I recharge. You may not be that way. You might be an extrovert and you get your, batteries recharged through spending time with other people. That could be how you do it. That is a boundary for both of us, but our boundary is different, right? You may need to spend 2 nights a week or 1 night a week with a friend recharging. I could go a month without that. That's a boundary. If I do that too much, if I cross that boundary for myself, I will feel very depleted and I might even get sick from giving too much of my energy and not recharging. We're like batteries, right? We need to be charged, and we all get recharged in different ways. Um, so Amy said, "I thought someone needed it more than I did. The ramp was hard because it would be visible to everyone outside. It's a matter of pride, I guess." So there's a story there, right? About um if you thought someone else needed it more than you, that your needs, again, are less important, right? It could be some person you don't even know, but consider this, that people that people, um people want to help, right? There's plenty of people who want to help others to go around. So someone else who might need it, they're going to get the help that they need from another place, right? It could be even from the same person that helped you. But don't think that there is limited resources, I guess, right? We live in an abundant world. There is abundance all around us, and that includes people who want to help, resources that are there for you, money that is there for you, right? We live in an abundant universe. So thinking that here's an example. I had a client who has, I can't remember how many grandchildren, 8 or 10, and she loves her grandchildren. She always wanted to be the grandma that she had growing up. And so she, like, loves spending time with her grandchildren. I think it's amazing. She is about 64, 65, somewhere in there. And when we were working together, she told me that she felt guilty for spending time with her grandchildren, even though that was like one of the biggest joys of her life. And I asked her, where is the guilt coming from? And she said, because other women don't have the same opportunity, because they have to work or they don't have a husband who, supports them in being with their grandchildren. They don't have the time, whatever. So she was diminishing her experience with her grandchildren. Sometimes she would cancel going because she felt so guilty that other people didn't have the same opportunity. Again, we all we live in an abundant world. And just because someone else doesn't have exactly the same situation and the same opportunity doesn't mean you needing it or wanting it is wrong. I hope that helps you. And the matter of pride, I get it, right? But let people love you, right? Let people love on you and help you and support you through this time in your life that you're adjusting to, right? Versus allowing the ego, which is the pride, right, to control the situation. So I really appreciate you being here, Amy, and sharing. Emily said, it's easy for me to ask for help from my parents than asking for help from others in my life that aren't my parents. And Amy said, I need lots of me time as well. Emily, I'm definitely an introvert, right? The one thing I have to be careful of with this alone time and needing to recharge that way is that I don't isolate myself, right? That I'm not doing it out of fear of, what will people think, or not being too needy, and, all of those things. So I really have to balance that and make sure that I'm holding the boundary, but also not diminishing myself in the process. So, how do we figure out what our boundaries are? One way is to look at the signals that we're getting. One of those signals is obligation. Where am I repeatedly doing things that I don't want to do? And Lena, you came to mind when I thought of that, and I'll let you share if that's something that you want to do. But, where am I saying yes to things that I don't want to do? So that's a place to look. where a boundary needs to be set, where you're allowing your the desire to follow the obligation to keep you from protecting. Remember, we talked about protecting physical, emotional, time and energy, mental, material, and financial, right? That obligation probably leaks into your time and space. Maybe it leaks into your emotional, because maybe you feeling obligated then ends up leaving you feel depleted, right? So physical. So obligation is one place to look where you need a boundary, or two or three. The next place to look is body signals. There's that tail again. What do you have? Dread? Do you have tension? Do you have exhaustion? If you're feeling those things, that means there's a boundary that you haven't set, that is then allowing either you to trample on yourself and not honor your own needs, or someone else is trampling on you and not honoring what you need. But they can't honor what you need if you don't speak it. And then the third place is resentment. Where am I feeling resentment, and toward what or who? If you feel resentment toward a certain person, um, continuously, like, or frequently with the same person, then that indicates a place where you're not speaking your truth. You're not speaking your boundary. And again, maybe you haven't even figured out that a boundary is needed. But if you're feeling these things, obligation, something in the body, tension, exhaustion, dread, and resentment, guilt is also another one, possibly, but resentment. So those three things, there is a boundary that needs to be set. And maybe you need to figure out what the need is first in order to be able to set that. So that's what we're talking about next. How do we figure out what's underneath that feeling? What's underneath the obligation? What's underneath the resentment, the signal that you're getting from your body? Here's a magic wand question. If this could be different, what would I want instead? Let's see. While you're thinking about that, Catherine said, "I've felt like that since I retired. Guilty that I was able to retire at 59 when others I know cannot." Yeah, the guilt. We're going to talk a little bit about guilt in a little bit, but right when how are we going to live our life in a most fulfilling way, in the most content way for us, if we constantly are thinking, well, they don't have that, right? They can't afford that. They can't afford to stop their job. They can't do XYZ, right? We're constantly going to be then just living according to how we think other people perceive us. And when you think about it, right? If you're thinking about, well, I feel guilty, you're actually saying, I'm concerned about what they think about me, right? And I know that that feels maybe a little harsh, right? But when we're saying, I feel guilty because they don't have that, the guilt is coming from the ego saying, oh, you should feel bad because they don't have that. But that's just a story. That's just our ego trying to keep us small, which it's trying to keep us small in order to keep us safe. And So how does that thought serve you, right? I feel guilty because they don't have what I have. I'm I'm too lucky, right? I shouldn't feel this good about being able to retire, right? And then we diminish and not we don't live it. I'm not saying that you're doing this, Catherine, but this is what can happen, right? We get bummed because we don't feel good about being able to live our life the way we want because of this guilt and shame maybe about what other people don't have. Amy said, true, but I've always done things for myself, so it's hard to accept it. Oh, thank you. You are so welcome. Gotta run. Thanks for being here in the Rockies. You're probably already gone. So how do we how do we figure out what the boundary is, right? Again, use the magic wand question. If this could be different, what would I want instead? Emily said, in this situation where I need to stand up for myself, I have this person in my life, and when I see her, she's always judging me on the music that I listen to, and she laughs in my face. That probably doesn't feel good, right? We're going to talk about things that you can actually say. And I would say if this is a frequent occurrence, that I would either A, um, stop spending time with her or highly limit my time with her or have a conversation that, hey, if don't like my music, let me think about that one, Emily, and I'll get back to you. It's not overriding, it's just there. Catherine said, I work with the thought, knowing that I worked darn hard to get here. Exactly. I deserve it. It just confirms a very outdated belief that I don't deserve good things. Yes, right. And as long as you can recognize that, right? Those stories are going to keep coming up. But as long as we don't believe that they're true, that is the most important part. And Emily, I guess, before I get to like things you could say, is it true that the music you listen to, you like it, right? Just because she doesn't and she laughs in your face, like that is a little bit bullying. Um, it always happens. Okay, then it's up to you to set your boundary around that. And a boundary could be that you no longer are going to be in her presence because that seems like a little bit of bullying to me. Catherine said, yes, the stories will always be there. Right. But we get to choose whether we believe them and we get to choose, whether or not we want to create a new story. So if this could be different, what would I want instead? Emily, if this could be different, what would you want instead? Yeah, Catherine said, "Her laughing in your face must really hurt." It is really hurtful, and I'm sorry that that happens, right? Now it's time to decide w what do you want to do with that information, right? Because what she's giving you is information about who she is and what your relationship means. So, if this could be different, what would I want instead? And Emily, if you have an answer to that, throw it in the chat. What are you and then the next thing you can do, what are you protecting? Like we need to figure out what do I want to protect? My time, my energy, respect. Emily, that would be a big one for you. Okay. You can't make her stop judging you, right? But you have control over standing up for yourself. So, we're going to get to some things that we can say. So, figure out what do I need to protect here? For you, Emily, it's your respect and your autonomy, right? Your emotional and mental feelings. Am I being asked things versus being told things? For instance, maybe someone says to you, "Oh, I'm looking forward to you hosting Thanksgiving this year." It's like, no, I want to be asked. I don't want to be told. So then flip that complaint. So, Emily, flip the complaint that she's judging you into a need. What is the need? The need probably is for you to feel safe, right? To feel loved, to feel respected. So, in a little bit, we're going to talk about how do you speak that to someone. So, flip the complaint into a need. Amy said it's hard to cut people off, but it will feel better in the long run. So hard to do, though. Yeah, absolutely. It's really hard. It's really hard, but sometimes we have to for our own emotional and mental and sometimes physical well-being, right? And that's cutting people off is a form of a boundary. It's not about them, it's about what I'm protecting in me. And if I can remember that this is me protecting me, and I don't mean putting up armor and putting up a shield, but putting up the boundary that I need to protect my time, physical space, energy, emotions, right? All of those things that we talked about. Catherine said, since I let go of people who are hurting me, I've had the most loving, accepting, and respectful people come into my life. Right. Because part of the thing is, if we're holding the energy of someone that's hurting us, we're not making space for someone that won't. And also, when you let go of those people that were hurting you, you were showing yourself respect, right? The more we respect ourselves, the more other people will respect us as well. Not necessarily those same people that were disrespecting us, right? Those people may fall out of our lives just naturally because we start not accepting that behavior in our lives. Amy said, yes, husband left when kids were 8, 10, and 13. Wow, that's hard. Now in their 30s. He wanted to come around to talk to me, but not our kids. I had to set that boundary. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, that's rough. I've been through divorce, but I don't have kids, so that adds, I know, another complete dimension. Emily said, this person isn't really a friend. I have to meet with this person once every 2 months. It's like a case manager. And that's the person telling you that your music, or is judging your music. That's not okay. But luckily, and I thought you said that it was a friend earlier. Luckily, you're only seeing them every 2 months, right? Um, so I'm not quite sure what you can do in that situation other than not play your music while you're there with them. Um, right? Amy said, "Oh man, can you replace her?" Yeah. Uh, that I mean, that's very much very disrespectful and uh doesn't sound like something a case manager should be saying and judging you on. So again, we're going to then figure out what we're protecting, right? For you, Emily, you're protecting your own emotional well-being and flip the complaint into a need. I'm so tired of her or him maybe judging me. I need blank. What do you need? I need to feel respected. I need to feel calm. I need to feel happy, I need to, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is for any of you. Amy said, here, case managers can be replaced. I did home health care, and my clients at times had to request another manager. I don't play my music. I've told her that I like heavy metal music. Okay, did this come up just, you said though that it happens all the time, right? Um, I don't know, like, I don't know the situation, Emily, so maybe she's saying it from a place of heavy metal music isn't, that her opinion is that it isn't good for your emotional or mental state. I don't know, right? I don't know the situation. Only you can determine whether or not you need to set a boundary around that. So every 2 months when you go, she makes a comment about it. Is that what you're saying, Emily? So we're figuring out how to set up our boundaries, right? Start small. Practice naming preferences in low stakes, like food, plans, schedule, before big relational ones, right? Don't jump to the big ones that are most impactful first. Start with things where there is a much lower thing at stake. Yes, she does make a comment every time I meet with her. Then I might say, um, you know, I'm I'm working on my own well-being, which she already knows, obviously. I would appreciate you not commenting on the music that I listen to, and leave it at that. I don't know with a case manager that you can set up a consequence of, if you bring it up, I'm going to end the session, right? That doesn't benefit you because then you're not getting her help. But maybe if you just name it, like, I feel put down, right? Name how you feel when she does that. I feel diminished. I feel judged. I feel put down when you talk about or diss my heavy metal music. I would appreciate that we don't talk about my music. That's a boundary. We don't talk about my music. We don't bring it up, period. Unless there's a valid reason why she's bringing it up, which I don't understand, but I'm not your case manager. So I don't know the whole story, obviously, right? So that is what I would say. I would set a boundary, just what I said, and see what happens from there. Do you think you could do that, Emily? So start small, right? I don't know that that's small for you, Emily, but I can't imagine that there would be fallout from speaking your need. Maybe she's, I don't know, this is just a thought that came to mind. Maybe she's testing you about whether you'll speak up for yourself. I don't know. Okay, so then the next step is to actually build the boundary. This is what we've been talking about. And this isn't, I need them to stop doing blah, blah, blah. I need them to start respecting me. I need them to stop judging me. I need them to, it's not about them, right? It's about what I need, what I want. So we would state it like, I need X. I need to, I'm making this up. I need to feel safe with my case manager. So I won't tolerate talking about my music. I don't know. That's I will do that and see how it goes. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you. How did you distract me? Um You didn't distract me at all. So, the boundary, right? This is making the need or the want, the desire enforceable. I need X, so I will or won't do Y. I need more free time, so I'll think about it when asked to do something. That's an example. I need autonomy over my choices, so I won't say yes just to avoid disappointing someone. Those are a couple of examples. If any of you have another example, you can throw it in the chat. I would love to hear what's like coming up for you with this. And one thing to consider, and we maybe touched on this already, somebody brought this up to me that they learned when they were going through Codependence Anonymous. She talked about afterburn. And this afterburn is the discomfort we feel when we practice a self-care behavior like setting a boundary, right? That is a boundary is a self-care behavior, right? So afterburn is the discomfort that we feel when we practice this self-care and we feel guilty. Remember, so that's the afterburn. The afterburn, just like afterburn, right? It burns off. It goes away. So she said, and this was a comment on a video, she said, I say to myself, I'm not guilty of anything. I'm just feeling the afterburn. That I thought was so helpful for those of us that are so used to putting other people first and feeling guilty when we do something for ourselves, when we speak up, that is just the afterburn. That afterburn is going to go away fairly quickly. The resentment is what builds when you don't set a boundary. It is going to last a long time and it cuts a lot deeper. The afterburn, again, is just, like when you light a match, right? And then it poofs up and then it slowly goes back down and goes out. That is the afterburn. That's the guilt you're feeling. It's going to go out. That fire that you feel in the moment is going to go away, that discomfort. The resentment typically doesn't go away until you start speaking up for yourself, until you start setting boundaries around the things that are causing you the resentment. So here's just a reframe that feeling bad after setting a boundary isn't proof that you're doing something wrong. It's just the afterburn. So just think of it as that match. It poofed up, right? When you struck it, it fired up, and then it burns out and goes away. So Catherine said, they are most likely not going to change in my experience. Are you speaking to Emily, Catherine, about the case manager, or just other people aren't going to change? Right. And that's typically, if that's what you're saying, I've experienced that too. And I had to separate myself from them. I had to let them go out of my life, or really limit my time with them. People, places, and perspective. I always want to say people pleaser is here. Love that reminder. Which reminder is that? Not sure what you heard about the afterburn. Yeah, I loved that reframe, that feeling bad after a self-care behavior, and that could be, again, taking time for yourself is a boundary that you're setting with yourself. Other people might not like it. Other people might not know that you're doing it, but it's still a boundary that you're using to manage your time to do self-care with yourself. Emily, I had to let go of this friend in my life because she didn't change her behavior. Yeah, it's not about, again, boundaries aren't about making other people change their behavior. They're about what we need to do to protect ourself and protect, again, our energy, our time, our physical space, our physical body, um, all of those things that we are responsible for in our life. Catherine, anyone whose behavior we need to set boundaries with. Right. Yeah, again, it's not about them, right? It's about me protecting what is most important to me. And that's, my time, my energy, and it took me, right? I didn't learn this for 55 years. And it took me having a toxic marriage to finally get the brick to the head that I needed, that allowed me to start saying and seeing, what am I doing? How am I showing up that these people keep coming into my life and taking advantage of me, physically, financially, mentally, emotionally, right? And that is the place where it wasn't about them, it was about what I was allowing and what I wasn't setting boundaries around. That's about all I have for you today, other than just the wrap up. Catherine said, imagining myself in a bubble of white light for protection helps, as does saying, I stand in my own energy and release what is not mine. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for putting that in the chat. That's helpful for other people. There is a thing I learned about imagining yourself like building this egg around you, kind of a golden orb around you. And then I don't remember who I learned this from. Also, putting out like antennas or reflectors is maybe a better word, to reflect away the bad, um, the unhealthy energy. I don't want to say bad, just the unhealthy energy that doesn't work for who you are and who you want to be and how you want to manage your own life, right? This is all about me managing my life, you managing your life, each one of you individually, and you're going to manage it differently than other people, and that does not make it wrong. So what if you keep skipping this step, right, of not speaking up for your own needs and wants and desires, or not even figuring out what those needs and desires are, not taking the step to know that you have the right to speak your own needs and wants and desires, right? Your boundaries are going to stay reactive. You're going to let them push you so far that the boundary becomes reactive, like you need to stop doing that, or you have an emotional explosion, right? That was me for many years. I would get so dysregulated emotionally that I couldn't speak sometimes. And for a while, I thought that was me, like expressing that they had pushed me too far. But that didn't express it well at all. It only caused confusion or hurt or um, the the opportunity for them to push me farther, right? To take advantage of me being defensive. And so we don't want to be reactive in our boundaries. We want to know now, this is what I need. Like, I know I need a lot of alone time. I know I need to stay away from them for the most part from big social situations. I know that I need my mom to, you know, do to call me every morning so that I know that she's safe, right? Know I know what I need and want now for my own emotional and mental, and I know that I need to say no to people that I get creepy vibes from, right? Just yeah, the golden orb, right? That's cool too, Heidi, Catherine said. Um, and then having the reflectors to I imagine like those reflectors we used to lay on when we were young to get tan, right? Like, bad idea, but that's what I imagine, like, these reflectors being around me to reflect away that energy. So, um, what if you keep skipping this step, right? And that was me. I kept skipping the step about boundaries because I didn't know what the beliefs were behind the not wanting to set boundaries. I didn't know about that I had this belief that women who set boundaries or said no or spoke up from themselves were mean or bitchy or rude. I was someone looking at that person from a standpoint of not having boundaries and not knowing that they were my right to have. So our boundaries stay reactive. We become resentment driven, and it's very unstable way to live. Our nervous system stays in an unstable state when we keep skipping the step of figuring out what boundaries we want to make for ourselves, right, in our life to protect us. And then what if you do the work, right? Your boundaries become clear, calm, non negotiable because they're rooted in something real. They're rooted in your needs, your wants, your values. I didn't even talk about values, right? Your desires, your preferences. They're rooted in what's true for you, not in what someone else is doing to you. I think we talked last week or the week before about that's victim mentality, right? That they're doing this to me, they're making me feel this way. And when we play the victim, we are powerless. We are giving away our power. And then we're going to live in resentment. Oh, RW, Renee, right? Or yes. I recently said no to a lifelong friend who was asking for money. For a long time, I gave her money out of guilt. When I followed through on the boundaries, she cut me off. It was a relief. Good for you for you know, following through on that boundary. And good for you for realizing, that you were doing it out of guilt and how it was impacting you, right? Um, yeah, so again, when we do the work, when we sit down and figure out what do I need? What do I want? What do I desire? What what works for me and what doesn't work for me? And when we do that, our boundaries become clear and they become non-negotiable because again, they're rooted in something that is true for us, something real. My desires, my wants, my needs, my values, my preferences. So that is what I have for you today. I appreciate you being here. I do have a boundaries challenge. It does cost money. It's $97. It's a 30-day challenge that comes to you through email. So there's nothing that nothing you have to sign into. There's nothing other than look at your email. So every day for a month when you sign up, it starts. Um, that is something a resource that I have. I created it a couple years ago. It's out there. I don't yeah, and that's a way for you to there's a lot of value in that boundaries challenge. I talk about self-worth and we go deeper. Another resource is Catherine said, I've found it a relief to no longer have certain people in my life. Thanks, Emily. Have a great week yourself. I appreciate you being here. Um, Another resource is the Inner Circle membership. Catherine is a member of that membership. That is a place where you can get deeper self inventory videos. There are some great videos in there that go deeper into how to determine the beliefs that you believe about yourself that might be holding you back. Um, how to find what's in your blind spots, the things, the stories, the beliefs that are hidden in your blind spots. So that is $5.99 a month. You can join today, go watch all the videos in there, and then unsubscribe at the end of the month. I continually put videos in there occasionally, so there will be new videos that come out all the time. You can click on the join button below this live stream, or if you're watching the replay, the join button below. It will give you more information about the inner circle, and then you can decide from there if that's something that you want to be. But I would love to support you within the inner circle through your comments and me sharing back, or in further future videos. Thank you, Catherine. She said, thanks, Heidi. It's been great as always. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all you being here. Let's see what the poll turned out. So afraid to hurt or upset someone was 50%. So what makes saying no or speaking up for yourself hardest for you? 50% is that, then 21% don't know what I want or need. So do that inventory. Again, in the Inner Circle membership, there is a video that walks you through the blind spot assessment. It is a pretty comprehensive assessment that will help you see what area in your life you might be needing boundaries, to focus on your boundaries first or the most, because it will point out the area of your life where you have the most blind spots around how you act in certain situations. Thanks, Amy. Thanks for being here. She said, this is nice. I'll be back. Lena, thanks for being here. You were quiet. You must be maybe out camping. Okay, so don't know what I want or need. Again, that video in the Inner Circle would be really helpful if you voted don't know what I need or want. And then 14% for both fear being seen as mean or pushy and never saw it modeled growing up. So again, thanks for being here. I go live every Wednesday at 2:22 p.m. Eastern time. I know Catherine is into tomorrow because she's in New Zealand. And Lena is in almost tomorrow because she's in Sweden. So thanks for being here. I will see you next week at the same time, same place. Thanks again.